There's a discovery in neuroscience so profound, it rewrites everything we thought we knew about human potential. Hidden in your brain are specialized cells that don't just observe reality, they literally absorb and replicate the neural patterns of everyone around you. These aren't ordinary neurons. They're called mirror neurons, and they're silently programming your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors based on the people you spend time with. Most people have no idea this is happening. They blame their lack of progress on willpower, circumstances, or bad luck. But the truth is far more fascinating and empowering. Your brain is constantly downloading the mental software of your environment, automatically installing the beliefs, habits, and limitations of those closest to you. Dr. Giacomo Rizzolati's groundbreaking research in the 1990s first identified these neural mimics. His team was studying monkey brains when they noticed something extraordinary. Certain neurons fired not only when a monkey performed an action, but also when it simply watched another monkey perform the same action. The observer's brain was literally experiencing the action as if it were performing it itself. This wasn't just imitation. It was neural synchronization at the deepest level. The watching monkey's brain was downloading and installing the exact same neural pathways as the performing monkey. In essence, experience was being transmitted from one brain to another through pure observation. When researchers discovered that humans possess far more sophisticated mirror neuron systems than any other species, everything changed. Suddenly, we understood why children learn language so effortlessly, why emotions are contagious, why being around certain people makes you feel energized while others drain your vitality. Your brain isn't just processing information, it's becoming whatever it consistently observes. If this is hitting you like a lightning bolt of recognition, type 757 in the comments. This isn't just a number, it's your declaration that you're ready to consciously choose the neural patterns you want to install instead of letting your environment program you randomly. Here's what most people don't realize. Your mirror neurons are active 247, constantly scanning your environment and updating your internal programming. When you spend time with someone who's confident, your brain begins firing confidence patterns. When you're around anxious people, anxiety becomes your default state. When you observe successful behaviors repeatedly, success patterns get hardwired into your neural architecture. This happens below the threshold of conscious awareness. You're not trying to copy anyone. You're not deliberately modeling behaviors. Your brain is automatically synchronizing with the dominant frequencies in your environment, downloading and installing whatever patterns it encounters most frequently. The implications are staggering. If your mirror neurons are constantly absorbing the mental patterns of your surroundings, then your potential isn't limited by your genetics, your past, or your current circumstances. It's only limited by the quality of the neural patterns you expose yourself to. This explains why people who grow up in wealthy families often become wealthy themselves, why children of entrepreneurs tend to be entrepreneurial, why depression and anxiety can seem to run in families. It's not just genetics or learned behavior, it's neural programming transmitted through mirror neuron networks. But here's the revolutionary part. Once you understand this system, you can hack it. You can deliberately expose your mirror neurons to the exact patterns you want to install. You can essentially reprogram your brain by choosing your neural diet as carefully as you choose your food. Dr. Marco Iacoboni's research at UCLA revealed that mirror neurons don't just copy actions, they absorb intentions, emotions, and even subconscious beliefs. When you observe someone who truly believes they can achieve anything, your brain begins installing those same belief patterns. When you spend time with people who think small, your mirror neurons download limitation programs. This is why Tony Robbins insists that success leaves clues. It's not just about learning strategies or techniques. It's about exposing your mirror neurons to the actual neural patterns of successful people until your brain installs those same patterns as default programming. Ancient wisdom traditions understood this principle long before neuroscience could explain it. The concept of satsang, surrounding yourself with truth-embodied beings, wasn't spiritual advice. It was brain science. The disciples knew that spending time in the presence of an enlightened master would literally reprogram their neural networks through mirror neuron absorption. Modern research has validated this ancient understanding. Studies show that people's brainwave patterns actually synchronize when they're in deep rapport. Dr. Mauricio Delgado's work demonstrates that when two people are truly connected, their neural activity begins to mirror each other in real time. They're not just communicating, they're sharing consciousness. This is why proximity to greatness is so transformative. It's not about inspiration or motivation. It's about neural contagion. When you're consistently exposed to elevated patterns of thinking, feeling, and being, your brain has no choice but to install those patterns as your new normal. But here's the danger. This process works in both directions. Just as you can upgrade your programming through strategic exposure, you can also download limiting patterns, victim consciousness, and scarcity mindsets through unconscious association. Your brain doesn't discriminate between positive and negative patterns. It simply installs whatever it observes most frequently. This explains why negative people can be so toxic to your progress. It's not just their attitude or energy. They're literally broadcasting neural patterns of limitation, fear, and impossibility. When your mirror neurons absorb these patterns, they become part of your unconscious programming, sabotaging your efforts from within. The breakthrough comes when you realize you're not a victim of your neural programming. You're the programmer. Every person you spend time with, every video you watch, every conversation you have is updating your mental software. The question is whether you're installing upgrades or downloading viruses. Dr. V.S. Ramachandran calls mirror neurons the neurons that shaped civilization. He argues that these cellular networks are responsible for culture, language, empathy, and the rapid acceleration of human evolution. Unlike other species that must pass information through slow genetic changes, humans can instantly share neural patterns through mirror neuron networks. This means you have access to the accumulated wisdom, skills, and capabilities of everyone who's ever lived. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every elevated state of consciousness that's ever been achieved is available for download through strategic exposure to the right neural patterns. Think about it. When you watch a master musician perform, your brain is installing musical neural pathways. When you observe a gifted athlete, athletic patterns get downloaded. When you spend time with someone who's mastered emotional regulation, those regulatory circuits become part of your neural architecture. But most people squander this incredible capacity. They unconsciously expose themselves to mediocre patterns, limiting beliefs, and dysfunctional emotional programs. They watch television shows full of drama and chaos. They surround themselves with people who complain, worry, and think small. They consume content that reinforces scarcity, fear, and limitation. Then they wonder why they can't seem to break through to the next level, not realizing their mirror neurons have been programmed for mediocrity. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires conscious choice. you must become intentional about your neural diet. Just as you carefully choose what you put in your body, you need to carefully choose what patterns you put in your brain. This means curating your environment with the same precision a master chef curates ingredients. Every person in your inner circle should be someone whose neural patterns you want to absorb. Every book you read, every video you watch, every conversation you engage in should be upgrading your mental software. Dr. Christian Kaiser's research shows that mirror neurons are most active when we feel connected to the person we're observing. This means the patterns you absorb most deeply come from people you admire, respect, and feel emotionally aligned with. The stronger the connection, the more complete the neural download. This is why mentorship is so powerful. It's not just about learning information or strategies. A true mentor is someone whose neural patterns you want to install in your own brain. Through consistent exposure to their way of thinking, processing, and responding, your mirror neurons gradually reprogram your mental operating system. But you don't need direct access to successful people to benefit from this principle. Thanks to modern technology, you can expose your mirror neurons to the patterns of anyone who's ever been recorded. When you watch interviews with brilliant minds, your brain installs intelligence patterns. When you study the habits of peak performers, performance patterns get downloaded. The key is conscious repetition. Your mirror neurons install patterns through frequency of exposure. One conversation with a successful person won't transform you, but consistent exposure to success patterns will gradually rewire your entire neural architecture. This is why immersion experiences are so transformative. When you completely surround yourself with elevated patterns for extended periods, whether through intensive trainings, retreats, or mastermind groups, your mirror neurons have no choice but to download and install the dominant programming in that environment. Dr. Patricia Churchland's research reveals that mirror neurons don't just copy specific behaviors, they absorb entire emotional and cognitive frameworks. When you observe someone who approaches challenges with curiosity instead of fear, your brain installs curiosity patterns. When you watch someone respond to setbacks with resilience instead of victimhood, resilience becomes part of your neural programming. This explains why changing your peer group is often the fastest way to change your life. It's not about cutting off old friends or being elitist. It's about understanding that your brain is constantly installing the patterns of the people you spend the most time with. If you want to upgrade your results, you need to upgrade your neural diet. But here's what's truly revolutionary. You can also use mirror neurons to install patterns from your future self. Visualization isn't just positive thinking, it's mirror neuron programming. When you consistently imagine yourself thinking, feeling, and behaving like the person you want to become, your brain installs those patterns as if they were real experiences. Dr. Alvaro Pascual-León's research at Harvard showed that mental practice alone can create the same neural changes as physical practice. People who simply imagined playing piano developed the same motor cortex changes as people who actually played. Mirror neurons don't distinguish between observed reality and vividly imagined experience. They install patterns from both. This opens up incredible possibilities. You can expose your mirror neurons to any pattern you want by creating detailed mental movies of yourself embodying those patterns. Your brain will gradually install that programming as your new default, changing your automatic responses and behaviors from the inside out. The ancient practice of modeling the divine wasn't religious metaphor, it was neuroscience. By consistently imagining themselves embodying divine qualities, practitioners were programming their mirror neurons to install godlike patterns of consciousness, behavior, and capability. Modern peak performers use this principle intuitively. They spend time visualizing themselves performing at their highest level, essentially programming their mirror neurons with excellence patterns before they need to access them in reality. But visualization alone isn't enough. Your mirror neurons are most effectively programmed through multi-sensory, emotionally engaging experiences. The more real the experience feels, the more completely the patterns get installed. This is why acting training can be so transformative. When actors completely embody different characters, their mirror neurons install those personality patterns. Many actors report that playing certain roles permanently changed aspects of their personality, not because they were pretending, but because their brains installed the neural patterns they repeatedly embodied. You can use this same principle to install any pattern you want. Choose a version of yourself that you want to become. More confident, more creative, more successful, more peaceful, and spend time fully embodying that identity. Not just thinking about it, but feeling it, moving like it, breathing like it, responding like it. Your mirror neurons will gradually install these patterns until they become your natural way of being. You're not trying to become someone else. You're installing the neural patterns that allow your highest potential to emerge. The most profound realization is that consciousness itself is contagious through mirror neuron networks. When you spend time with people who operate from expanded awareness, your brain installs expanded awareness patterns. When you expose yourself to enlightened consciousness through books, teachings, or direct contact, enlightenment patterns get downloaded into your neural architecture. This means awakening isn't a mysterious process that happens to special people. It's simply the result of consistently exposing your mirror neurons to awakened patterns until those patterns become your default programming. Every saint, sage, and enlightened being is essentially someone whose mirror neurons installed the neural patterns of ultimate reality. Dr. Bruce Lipton's research shows that when we identify with limiting beliefs, our mirror neurons actually suppress the expression of our full genetic potential. But when we install patterns of possibility, creativity, and unlimited thinking, our genes express at higher levels. Mirror neurons don't just change your behavior, they literally change which aspects of your DNA get activated. This suggests that human potential is far more flexible than we ever imagined. You're not stuck with the patterns you inherited or learned early in life. Through conscious mirror neuron programming, you can install any patterns that any human has ever developed. The only limits are the limits of human possibility itself. And since human potential continues expanding as individuals break through to new levels of capability, consciousness, and creation, your potential is essentially unlimited. Every breakthrough by any human expands the available patterns for everyone else to download and install. This is why studying greatness in any field can benefit you in all fields. Excellence patterns, mastery patterns, breakthrough patterns. They all share common neural architectures that transfer across domains. When you install the neural patterns of a master in any area, you're downloading mental software that enhances your performance everywhere. The invitation is to become conscious about your mirror neuron programming. Instead of randomly absorbing whatever patterns happen to be in your environment, deliberately choose the neural patterns you want to install. Surround yourself with people whose mental software you want to download. Study individuals whose capabilities you want to develop. Immerse yourself in environments that broadcast the patterns you want to embody. Your brain is already constantly installing new programming through your mirror neuron networks. The question is whether that programming is upgrading your potential or limiting it. Will you install patterns of possibility or patterns of limitation? Patterns of mastery or patterns of mediocrity? Patterns of consciousness expansion or patterns of consciousness contraction? The choice is yours, but the choice must be conscious. Your mirror neurons will install whatever they observe most frequently. Make sure what they're observing aligns with who you want to become. Every moment you spend in the presence of elevated patterns, your brain is being upgraded. Every person you choose to spend time with is either installing empowering programs or downloading limiting ones. Every piece of content you consume is either expanding your neural architecture or reinforcing old limitations. When you truly understand this principle, you realize that changing your life isn't about willpower, discipline, or grinding harder. It's about strategically programming your mirror neurons with the exact patterns you want to embody until those patterns become your unconscious defaults. This is the real secret behind transformation. Not positive thinking, not goal setting, not trying harder, but neural programming through strategic pattern exposure. When you get this right, change happens automatically because you've literally installed new mental software that generates different thoughts, emotions, and behaviors as your natural way of being. But the most astonishing discovery is yet to come. Recent research by Dr. Vittorio Galeazzi reveals that mirror neurons don't just absorb patterns from direct observation. They also activate when you simply read about or hear detailed descriptions of experiences. This means that right now, as you're reading these words, your mirror neurons are beginning to install the patterns I'm describing. Every story of transformation you read, every detailed account of someone overcoming limitations, every vivid description of peak performance is programming your brain with those exact patterns. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between lived experience and richly imagined scenarios. It installs the neural pathways regardless. This explains the power of biographies, case studies, and detailed success stories. When you read about how someone built a business from nothing, your brain installs entrepreneurial patterns. When you study accounts of people overcoming depression, healing patterns get downloaded. When you immerse yourself in stories of scientific breakthroughs, innovation patterns become part of your neural architecture. Dr. Lisa Azizadeh's work at USC demonstrates that when people read action words like kick, pick, or lick, their mirror neurons activate in the corresponding body regions as if they were actually performing those actions. The brain literally embodies the language it processes, installing motor patterns through words alone. This revolutionizes how we think about learning and transformation. You don't need to physically experience every pattern you want to install. You can program your mirror neurons through strategic consumption of content that contains the exact neural patterns you want to develop. Ancient storytelling traditions understood this principle. The great myths, legends, and teaching stories weren't just entertainment. They were sophisticated mirror neuron programming systems. By repeatedly hearing stories of heroes overcoming obstacles, listeners installed heroic patterns, tales of wisdom and enlightenment, programmed consciousness, expansion patterns into entire cultures. Modern neuroscience has validated what shamans, griots, and wisdom keepers knew instinctively: stories change brains. When you immerse yourself in narratives of possibility, your mirror neurons install possibility patterns. When you consume stories of limitation and victimhood, limitation patterns get downloaded. This is why your media diet is as important as your food diet. Every movie you watch, every book you read, every podcast you listen to is programming your mirror neurons with specific patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Most people unconsciously consume content that reinforces limitation, drama, and dysfunction, then wonder why their lives feel chaotic and constrained. Dr. Paul Zak's research on oxytocin shows that compelling narratives actually change your brain chemistry, making you more empathetic, trustful, and open to new possibilities. But more importantly, they make your mirror neurons more receptive to installing the patterns contained within the story. This means you can literally reprogram your personality, capabilities, and consciousness through strategic narrative consumption. Choose stories of characters who embody the qualities you want to develop. Study accounts of people who've achieved what you want to achieve. Immerse yourself in content that contains the exact patterns you want to install. But here's the crucial distinction. Passive consumption isn't enough. Your mirror neurons install patterns most effectively when you're emotionally engaged and mentally active. You need to read or listen with full attention, imagining yourself in the scenarios, feeling the emotions of the characters, mentally rehearsing the behaviors being described. This is why guided visualizations and meditation practices are so transformative. They're not just relaxation techniques, they're mirror neuron programming sessions. When a skilled guide walks you through detailed scenarios of success, health, or enlightenment, your brain installs those patterns as if you had lived them yourself. Dr. Srini Pillai's research at Harvard Medical School shows that the brain regions activated during detailed visualization are nearly identical to those activated during actual experience. Your mirror neurons can't tell the difference between a vividly imagined scenario and a real one. They install the patterns either way. This opens up extraordinary possibilities for rapid transformation. Instead of waiting years to accumulate the experiences needed to develop certain capabilities, you can install those patterns immediately through strategic mirror neuron programming. Elite athletes have used this principle for decades. Mental rehearsal isn't just preparation, it's pattern installation. When Olympic athletes visualize perfect performances in rich detail, their mirror neurons install those performance patterns. Their bodies literally learn the movements before they physically practice them. You can apply this same principle to any area of development. Want to install confidence patterns? Spend time vividly imagining yourself moving through challenging situations with complete self-assurance. Want to develop leadership capabilities? Visualize yourself inspiring teams, making difficult decisions, and handling pressure with grace. The key is specificity and sensory richness. Your mirror neurons install patterns based on the details they receive. Vague visualizations create weak patterns, but when you imagine specific scenarios with full sensory detail, seeing the expressions on people's faces, hearing the tone of conversations, feeling the emotions in your body, you create robust neural pathways that your brain can access automatically in real situations. Dr. Arne Strohmeyer's work with professional musicians reveals that mental practice can be as effective as physical practice for developing complex motor skills. Pianists who spent time vividly imagining themselves playing difficult pieces developed the same neural patterns as those who practiced physically. Their mirror neurons installed the musical patterns through imagination alone. This suggests that the limitations we think are inherent to human development are actually just limitations in our understanding of how mirror neurons work. When you grasp the full potential of these neural networks, you realize you can install virtually any pattern that exists in human consciousness. But the most profound implications come when you understand that mirror neurons create collective consciousness fields. When groups of people share similar neural patterns, they create coherent field effects that influence everyone within the group. This is why being part of high-performing teams, mastermind groups, or spiritual communities can be so transformative. You're not just learning from individuals, you're tapping into collective neural patterns. Dr. William Tiller's research at Stanford demonstrates that focused human intention can create measurable changes in physical systems. When groups achieve neural coherence through shared mirror neuron patterns, they generate field effects that extend far beyond individual brains. This is the science behind what mystics call morphic fields, or collective consciousness. This means your mirror neuron programming doesn't just change you, it contributes to changing the collective patterns available to humanity. Every time you install patterns of possibility, love, and expanded consciousness, you're adding those frequencies to the global neural network that connects all human brains. Ancient traditions spoke of reaching critical mass for consciousness shifts. Modern science shows this isn't metaphor, it's mirror neuron network dynamics. When enough individuals install similar elevated patterns, those patterns become more accessible to everyone else. You're not just transforming yourself, you're helping transform the species. The responsibility this places on each individual is profound. Your choice of patterns doesn't just affect your personal reality, it influences the collective field of human possibility. Every limiting pattern you maintain contributes to collective limitation. Every expansive pattern you install expands collective potential. This is why consciousness work isn't selfish, it's the ultimate service. When you commit to installing the highest patterns available to human consciousness, you're helping make those patterns more accessible to everyone. Your personal transformation becomes a gift to the entire human family. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's research on morphic resonance suggests that once a certain number of individuals learn a new pattern, it becomes easier for everyone else to learn that same pattern. The mirror neuron networks of human consciousness are literally evolving in real time, and your choices determine the direction of that evolution. The ancient prophecies spoke of a time when humanity would awaken to its true potential. What they were describing wasn't some distant future, it's the mirror neuron evolution happening right now. Every individual who chooses to install patterns of consciousness expansion is contributing to the collective awakening of our species. Your mirror neurons are the hardware that makes this evolution possible. Every pattern you choose to install is a vote for the kind of reality you want humanity to experience. Will you install patterns of fear, limitation, and separation? Or will you choose patterns of love, possibility, and unity? The beautiful truth is that transformation is contagious. When you embody elevated patterns consistently, everyone around you begins installing those same patterns through their mirror neuron networks. You become a walking transmission station for higher consciousness, upgrading the neural software of everyone you encounter. This is why authentic transformation is so powerful. It's not just personal change, it's social contagion of possibility. When you truly embody new patterns, you give others permission and programming to embody those same patterns themselves. The choice before you isn't just about your individual life, it's about the collective future of human consciousness. Your mirror neurons are waiting to install whatever patterns you expose them to. What will you choose? The universe has given you the most sophisticated consciousness programming system ever evolved. Your mirror neurons can install any pattern that has ever existed in human experience and contribute to creating patterns that have never existed before. This is your invitation to become a conscious programmer of human potential. starting with your own neural networks and rippling out to influence the collective consciousness of our species. The patterns you install today become the reality you experience tomorrow, and the possibilities you make available to everyone who comes after you. Your mirror neurons are waiting. The field of infinite potential is ready to download. The only question is, what patterns will you choose to install? Choose wisely. The future of consciousness itself depends on the programming decisions you make right now.